So my question is in regard to the concept of hybrid working. What legislation exists to ensure that those who are hybrid working are not exploited because they have the tools at home and are connected to their workplaces outside of their contracted work hours?
Alicia, let me just ask, has your family experienced this feeling of being exploited through working from home?
Well, I'm a teacher, and so I can empathise with the gentleman over here, and everything you're saying about working till midnight and up at 5 and all the meetings, and that's, I think, just part and parcel of the job. And I think sometimes we think, oh, that's okay because I get like 11 weeks school holidays, so I can have some time to relax then. But in Anton's case, my husband, he's not a teacher, but having to work from home and also go and maybe even hybrid working, go on site for certain things. And at the moment he's having, because he's a digital content producer, he's got a lot of equipment in our only spare room, which is our nursery. So Grace is having to sort of compromise her first room. So so I think it's good in a sense, but if you don't have like the facilities to enable that, and not everyone has that, like we have a 2-bedroom apartment and we want to get a house and we want to get a bigger place, but in Melbourne that's not so easy because of the current situation with houses, and that's just another argument. But
that's a very good point, Jane. Let me come to you on this. I mean, work from home has been, I suppose, different for everybody who's done it, but is there a problem here of some employers exploiting those who are working from home, making them do more than they should?
So, David, let's be clear, we're not going to fall over a finish line with the pandemic, are we? And these sort of hybrid approaches to work, what we've got to do is figure out how we're going to make those sustainable. And I think people are right to be a bit concerned that the expectation is everyone's working 24/7, because we can't do that. And we know that our employees, regardless of what industry you're in, are reassessing actually what they value. So while we don't necessarily have the tools yet, and we don't really have a way to describe this, I think what we need to do for an employer is actually listen to our staff and start thinking really thoughtfully about what it is going to be, if you like, the approach to the new workplace, because we're not going back to where we were, and that's probably a good thing. But I think this approach to hybrid working and being cognizant that people have families and responsibilities, and when they actually work, it can be great to have flexibility. But if a baby needs a sleep during the day, you don't want to be in there editing digital material at the same time. She's going to need a nap. So we've got to figure that out. Yeah.
Now, well, Eliza, let me bring in you here because, tell us about your experience when it comes to work from home. We've heard some of those who, feel concerned about how it's worked, but what about you?
Yeah, well, I'm a person with disability. So I have a physical condition called Charcot-Marie tooth. And so that affects the way that I walk, and I fatigue easily, I'm in pain. And so working from home has been incredible because I don't have to have that time where I'm commuting. And it's draining. Yeah. For many people with disability, you don't even know if you're going to be able to get through the front door. You don't know if you're going to be met with an Auslan interpreter if you're deaf. So there's a lot of barriers even to get into the workplace. So I think that actually this is a really great leveller and a great way for people with disability, many people with disability, to be included in the workforce finally.
That's a really powerful point. It's a great... Indeed, a great leveller for people with a disability. Do you feel that in your own career that you have actually been going through a period of much greater productivity and success?
Yeah, look, I think it's also important to be clear that still people with disability are underemployed. If you're a person with disability, you're twice as likely to be unemployed. You're twice as likely not to be employed at all. And so I think it's important that we state that. But for me, it's been absolutely incredible because I haven't been in as much pain. I've been less fatigued, and that is because I haven't had to, go into the office, not know if there's going to be stairs that I can't get up, not know if I'm going to be able to get through the door. Those are the things that, are big barriers for people with disability. Yeah,
well, it is different experiences when it comes to work from home, and, Eliza, yours has certainly been a positive one. We heard from Alicia, and I think little Grace has just had to take off momentarily. But George, can I bring you in here, because what Alicia was talking about resonates with some figures that were released this week from the Australia Institute's Centre for Future Work, that on average people are working, 6.1 hours of unpaid work a week. That's risen. What do you think about this? Some countries like Portugal and France are now putting bans on employers contacting their workers after office hours. They can be fined if they do so. Do we need to go that far here?
You'd remember, David, as journalists, when the pager first entered our universe, and then the mobile phone, and the assumption was in our work, and it's obviously an assumption in many workplaces, certainly in the public sector. Certainly teachers would have had this assumption. Once you were contactable at all hours, people were on your back. And the other thing is, you felt, especially in the early transition phase through this sort of always-on work model, you felt obliged, A, to pick up the phone, B, to volunteer something. So I'm not surprised that we've added the equivalent of a half day, working extra half day for no reason, for no pay. Australia's we're in a very, very strange position culturally, because we're still in the middle of this great deregulation experiment. We're about 30 years worth now of trusting employers and employees to sort things out for themselves. We've deunionised the workforce. We've sort of suppressed the wages of ordinary workers. We've suppressed the wages and the headcount of the public sector. So there's really no signal out there like there used to be in the past. You know, you don't have a Gough Whitlam doing an equal pay submission to the old Industrial Relations Commission to try and break the gender gap in terms of pay in the public sector. You don't have one of those, very organised, like the metals workers doing test cases on a 40-hour week, or doing test cases on an extra couple of days annual leave. So this negotiation, unfortunately, is corporation to individual, organisation to individual. And the only leverage individuals have at the moment is the collective burnout for the last 18 months. And the fact that the borders have been closed also for the last 18 months, we can't fill jobs that Australians can't do. And there are jobs that Australians could do that many Australians don't want to do, because the terms and conditions in which they've been set, because their recent memory of life leading up to lockdown was, they're going to ask me to work an extra day. I'm probably going to go into an environment where they'll probably let somebody else go and I'll be picking up their... Sorry, go for it.
No, I just wanted to jump in. I thought that, I think we've been talking about, we don't actually know what's going to happen in Australia, and I think that's very true. But what we do know is that the themes that are coming out of the US, the key reasons that people are reporting that they're resigning is the search for greater meaning, which we've kind of talked about, worsening work-life balance, and actually toxic workplace cultures. And I think if we think about worsening work-life balance, which I'm sure many of us have experienced, that this is really a gendered issue as well. And if you think about the industries that we've seen the Great Resignation from, it's education, it's healthcare, it's aged care, and it's hospitality, which are female-led, often insecure workforces, often from communities have historically been marginalised, and they're not only sort of experiencing this increased burden of work and stressful work, but also often picking up the unpaid care burden at home, including homeschooling. So I think it's not surprising that we're sort of seeing this burnout, but this burnout is also about structural inequality, and I want us to kind of come back and sort of remember that it's not about just individuals. There's some systemic things that we need to change.
We are going to come to that too, and how this has been...